Jays fans, I hope this All-Star break finds you well. This is not after a game, Dave on Jays. This is wildly speculating about a Juan Soto trade, Dave on Jays. So if that seems like your bag, let's get into it. So the Nationals made their latest and by some estimates greatest attempt to lock up Juan Soto for the considerable future. And that attempt was roundly rejected, not just by Soto, who seemed more than a little disappointed and disillusioned by the whole process afterwards, but by Scott Boras, Soto's, shall we say, opinionated agent. Let's go with opinionated. That's probably the kindest word you could use for him. Anyway, this is a guy who wants to get all of his clients to free agency so he can write the largest check possible for them, and by extension for himself, that he possibly can. And fair enough, that's sort of his job by some estimations. And Juan Soto, the childish Bambino himself, God, I love that name. I think that's so good. He has a chance to be one of, if not the highest paid players in Major League Baseball history. This guy's already accomplished some pretty historic things. He's already won a championship, and he's like, 23 years old? It's ridiculous. He was just an All-Star again this year. He just won the home run derby after having to fly coach to get to the All-Star game, which is, that's a whole bunch of issues with that. I guess it's silly to charter a plane for one guy, but if you're Washington and the one guy is Juan Soto, who's basically your whole franchise, you charter the damn plane, guys. Anyway, whatever, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, this guy is now disappointed in his team verbally and outright with the media. The team itself is trying to damage control with its fan base by being like, look, we really tried, guys. Soto's agent is out there talking about how this offer wasn't remotely good enough or even in the ballpark of good enough, and he feels disrespected and all the rest of it. And with his reputation for taking guys to free agency, it sure looks like there's no extension coming that Soto will sign. It's also pertinent that the Washington Nationals owners, the Lerner family, are trying to sell the team, which means that they are trying to get their books in order, which would mean one of two things. One, you're either trying to get Juan Soto under contract for a long period of time so that he can be an asset that you can use to advertise your team and to make it look nicer when you sell it to someone else. You'd be like, look, not only are you getting a Major League Baseball team, but you're getting bona fide one of the very best players on the planet to come with it. That's a nice starting point for anyone who just buys a brand new baseball team. The other thing that they want to do is they want to cut salary. If they can get a whole bunch of their contracts off the books, Soto and other highly paid players, then any new owner buying the team would have a clean slate, something fresh that they can build from to make the team their own right away, rather than being burdened by a whole bunch of legacy contracts. So you really want to go hard one way or the other. With Soto, you definitely want to get him under contract. I think that would be better for the franchise as a whole and make it more attractive to potential buyers. But failing that, you want to utilize this opportunity to offload some of your worst contracts, or at least that seems to be the way that the discourse is going about this topic so far. So why are we talking about that? Well, because the Blue Jays could really use Juan Soto. He would be an immense asset to plug into this lineup, not just for this year, but for forever. A lineup featuring lefty Juan Soto followed by righty Vladimir Guerrero Jr. plus whoever else the Blue Jays with their rather large resources can get onto the that would work. That would work fine. Seriously, Juan Soto is already one of the best hitters on the planet, one of the most accomplished players in Major League Baseball. He's already a World Series champion, and there are guys playing in the Futures game at the All-Star game who are older than Juan Soto is. This guy is an absolute baseball prodigy. The way his career arc is going, he's not only a surefire Hall of Famer, but a guy that people will talk about as a top 10 player all time. If you have an opportunity to get this guy, I honestly am at the point where it's like, I don't care what it takes. If you think that you can get Juan Soto, you do it. You do it. You don't think about it. You absolutely get it. You get him, you lock it down, and you figure out the rest later. But you simply don't get an opportunity to acquire a player like this. When you draft a player, in your wildest dreams, you hope that he might have a scintilla of a chance to become a player half as good as Juan Soto. The idea that you could acquire the actual Juan Soto is unbelievable. You have to do it. If you can do it, you have to do it. So, if you were the Blue Jays, what would an attempt to get Juan Soto actually look like? Well, first of all, you have 2 top 100 prospects in the system, which is not the highest number, but the 2 guys you have are pretty good. They are, of course, Gabriel Moreno, who just got sent back down to AAA for further marinating after an extended audition with the big club when Danny Jansen got hurt. He did pretty well and actually did absolutely nothing to temper the enthusiasm of his prospect status. He already looked like he kind of belonged. It's very clear that he still has to find a way to tap into game power, but he's absolutely capable of catching big league pitchers. He's great at controlling the running game already. His hitting to contact skills are very, very high. He has great speed for a catcher. No, this guy is still a big time prospect, and he is joined in the big time prospect ranks by fast riser Ricky Tiedemann, who at the beginning of the year I don't think too many Blue Jays fans would have heard of, but now he's rocketed all the way up to I think number 39 on Baseball America's overall rating of prospects. He is a hard-throwing, really talented lefty starter who looks like he has the stuff and the ability to pitch in the big leagues and be a good one for a long time. So yeah, those would be the guys who you'd have to start with for any kind of talk about Juan Soto. Any team is going to give up their 2 or 3 best prospects in the period. There's no way around it. The Blue Jays would probably also have to give up probably both of Aurelvis Martinez and Jordan Groshans, which is a bit of a problem because it's pretty clear that the organization is hoping that at least one of them will still be around to take over from Matt Chapman in 2024. The team only gave Chapman a 2-year contract, which takes him to free agency. And I think that was because at that point, Matt will be on the wrong side of 30. And he's already at this point a league average hitter or slightly better with a fantastic glove. But that glove is based almost entirely upon his athleticism. His speed, his arm strength, his ability to get to hard hit balls because of his elite first step. Those are things that will wear down as he gets older. Signing Matt Chapman to an extended contract, which is something the Blue Jays would have to consider if they let both Groshans and Martinez go in a trade for Soto, that wouldn't be ideal because then you'd be signing on to a asset that you know will be depreciating right in front of your very eyes as you're trying to win a World Series. Not ideal. Now, of course, they might be able to get a third baseman from somewhere else, but again, if you're talking about getting Juan Soto, you are talking about significantly depleting your farm system, maybe all the way down to the studs. Like, leaving out only players that you just drafted, I think pretty much anyone else of any high prospect value is going to be out the door. Because I think those 4 guys even aren't going to be enough to tip the scales. I think that you probably have to throw in someone like an Otto Lopez, maybe someone like a Trent Palmer, maybe someone like a Sem Robertsi. I don't know, but there are enough prospects in the Blue Jays system that I think they could put together a pretty big, like, volume package. If not, like, at the top of the ticket is pretty good, but then you'd have to have a lot of prospects in order to really get things done here. Could other teams put together a package more enticing than the Blue Jays? Almost certainly. The question is, would they? There are only so many teams that have the combination of depth of prospect pool to be able to entice the Nationals to actually consider trading Juan Soto, but also the wherewithal to sign him to the requisite extended contract to make the whole thing worth it. There is an argument to be made for basically renting Soto for a year and a half and then trading him away again to refill your prospect pool when he has 1 year left before free agency. I can see that, and in so doing, you would bolster your attempts to win the World Series this year and next year. But at the same time, Juan Soto is the kind of guy that if you can keep him by any means necessary, there is almost no shot that any prospect you give up or any combination of prospects that you give up will end up being more valuable than Juan Soto is himself. So I'm not sure that that's the way you want to go, but I can see the argument there. My biggest problem with the belief that the Blue Jays might be in play to get Juan Soto isn't that they can't provide the best prospect package, because I think they do have a pretty deep farm system. Their top of the ticket in Moreno and Tiedemann is good enough that if they just keep on throwing the mid-tier guys in there until eventually you get to a number that other teams aren't comfortable matching, I think the Blue Jays have the depth to be able to get to that point. The problem I have with it is that if the Lerners are looking to kind of equalize their books and get rid of some of their problem contracts, of which they have several, they handed out several reward contracts after their championship in 2019, and those are looking pretty bad. And if the Lerners really are looking to offload some of those pretty bad contracts as part of this process, in addition to getting back a rich haul of prospects, I really don't see how any team can outbid the Mets. I mean, people talk about the Dodgers, they talk about the Astros, they talk about the Yankees, and rightly so. Those are big money franchises, and the Blue Jays are too. But the thing that all those teams have in common are a board of directors that the general manager and the president of baseball operations have to talk to. Like, seriously, Soto is going to require like a $500 million contract. And you can't pull off a move like that without talking to your board, without talking to your stakeholders, without talking to a whole bunch of different people and getting them all online and convincing them all that this is a great idea. The Mets don't have that problem at all. Steve Cohen is a hedge fund billionaire who is treating the Mets just like an old school baseball owner where the team is his toy, they're his hobby. But he doesn't care about how much it takes to spend to build a top flight baseball team because that's all like couch cushion money to him. So if the Mets come up and say, hey, here's 4 excellent prospects, plus we'll take back Patrick Corbin's contract, plus we'll take back Steven Strasburg's contract. Corbin is terrible and has, I think, 2 years after this year at big money, and then Steven Strasburg is even longer and he might never pitch again. His arm is completely blown out. If Steve is willing to come in there and take those 2 contracts and give a whole bunch of prospects, and then extend Juan Soto afterwards so the player is happy and wants to go there, the team is happy, and potential owners of said team are happy, I don't know how anyone else can beat that. That seems pretty elite. And as mentioned, because Steve is just the one guy who owns it and treats it like a toy, he can get that done in one phone call. I don't think any other team can match that process like at all or even come close. But it comes down to being willing to do it. Is Steve Cohen willing to throw down the big economic hammer and take back terrible contract after terrible contract, like tens of millions of dollars of dead money every year, just for the chance to acquire a player and then hand him the biggest contract in Major League Baseball history, while also emptying out your prospect pool just for the opportunity to do it? Is Steve Cohen willing to do that? My thing is, like, if he is, I think it'll be done in pretty short order because the Nationals have said they're going to take one last best shot to try to retain Soto, despite the fact that there seems to be a little bit of animosity in the process there. If that doesn't go down, I could totally see Soto being traded like 24 hours later. The Blue Jays, I think, could do it. I would just be shocked if they did. If only because last year the Blue Jays lost $53 million because the team was on the road for more than half the season. And then when they did come back, they were limited, I think, to 15,000 fans. It's just, there wasn't enough revenue coming in from what would be a normal season. And everyone knew they were going to lose money. Rogers knew they were going to lose money. No one is shocked they were going to lose money, and they still were willing to step up and hand a substantial contract to Kevin Gausman. Like, the team is still willing to spend despite that setback in 2021. That's not the issue here. It's that combined with this year's team hasn't really blown the doors off, and bringing in the largest contract ever in the history of the team after handing out the most prospects ever handed out in the history of the team, all to boost a team that right now is hanging on to the final playoff spot in the American League. I think if you were the Rogers board of directors, and I think even if you were Mark Shapiro, you would look at this situation and say, maybe it's better to be conservative here. Because the Blue Jays, as constituted, might be good enough to make the playoffs. And if you make the playoffs, you might win the World Series anyway. We've seen that lots of times. That wouldn't be the first time that this has happened. So, I don't know. I think, to me, the most likely scenario is that Soto stays in Washington. I think that when they back up this massive Brinks truck to him for this massive deal, the biggest deal they've ever offered, I think Soto signs. I think he's comfortable where he is. I think he thinks that the team can be good again in a couple years. The most guaranteed money that the sport has ever seen is persuasive. If that doesn't work, I don't see how any team can outdo what the Mets can do for the Lerner family in making their franchise look more attractive to potential buyers. And as far as the Lerner family is concerned, that is the thing. They don't care about what the Nationals are going to be doing in 2025. They won't own the team then. What they want is to make sure the team has financials that look at their maximum attractiveness in like 8 months or whenever it is. I think the Yankees could do that. I think the Dodgers could do that. I'm not sure about the Astros. Maybe they could do that. But I think those guys will dither, and I think those guys might end up deciding to say maybe not so much. Where Steve Cohen could just be like, yeah, I found another, $250 million, my jeans over there. So yeah, let's do it. As much as I would love the idea of Juan Soto wearing powder blue, I just don't see it. I don't see how they could really justify it at this point. And I don't think that they think that this is the best version of the Blue Jays. You push your chips all in when you think this is your best chance to win the World Series. I understand that you'd be getting a guy who would be a massive centerpiece of your team for the next 15 years, so maybe the math is a little bit different. And I honestly hope that Atkins and Shapiro look at this as a unique opportunity and push for it, even though it might feel a little premature. I just don't see it happen. I think he stays with the Nats, or failing that, goes to the Mets. And as long as he stays in the National League, I'm totally fine with that. Okay, well, this has been a lovely video about something that probably won't happen. Man, when do games start again? Pretty soon, I hope. That's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for watching this channel. Like and subscribe, etc. We're doing one more video before games start up for real, where we talk about the draft a little bit, the All-Star game a little bit, and what the team should be looking to do to improve itself in the non-Juan Soto division. So I will see you for that one, and failing that, I will see you for the resumption of games in a couple nights' time. I'll see you then.